Yuri Alexeyevich Gagarin into space, circling the Earth in 108 minutes and recovered him successfully. The world cheered the Soviet accomplishment. Kennedy called the new agency into the White House, and is there any place we can catch him? What can we do? And as Dr. Kraft pointed out, they had a hard time thinking of anything we could do to catch him, short of either going around the moon or landing on the surface of the moon. And even then, it would take a concerted national effort, sort of like a Manhattan Project for the atom bomb. And so now, in this year, 2009, we remember the apex of that space race 4 decades ago. The manned flights of Apollo actually began in late 1968. Apollo 7, the first and so important test flight of the Apollo command module, and Apollo 8, the second flight, that remarkably bold flight to and orbiting the moon, launched on only the third Saturn V rocket. 2 months later, Apollo 9 launched with 2 spacecraft, the normal Apollo command module, and with the new lunar landing craft called the lunar module they named Spider. It was the first checkout of that ungainly machine in Earth orbit. The lunar module flew again in Apollo 10, this time to the moon, in a full dress rehearsal of a landing attempt. And on 13 July of '69, Soviets launched Luna 15. It had no human crew aboard, but its secret mission was to land on the lunar surface, collect some soil samples, rocket them back to Earth, and claim a Soviet victory. First chunks of the moon returned to the Earth by humans. 3 days later, Apollo 11 departed Kennedy Space Center for Luna. The crew did not know about Luna 15 or its goal. Mission Control informed the crew of the existence of the Soviet craft while they were en route to the moon. Luna 15 was in orbit around the moon, preparing for its descent when the Americans arrived. It circled the moon for 4 days and began its descent on July 20th. But its landing system failed, and it crashed into the lunar surface. That same day, Apollo 11's lunar module, named Eagle, made a smooth touchdown on Luna's Mare Tranquillitatis 40 years ago tomorrow, fulfilling the dreams of those hundreds of thousands who had devoted their lives to that project for nearly a decade. In October, Soyuz 6, 7, and 8, with 7 cosmonauts aboard, flew simultaneously, and in November, Apollo 12 made the second successful landing on the moon. Russians announced they had no interest in the moon. They were focusing on an Earth-orbiting manned laboratory. Only much later did we learn that they had, in fact, did have a lunar landing program, and theirs was a cover story for the failures of their gigantic lunar rocket. The space race faded away. It was the ultimate peaceful competition, USA versus USSR. I'll not assert that it was a diversion which prevented a war. Nonetheless, it was a diversion. It was intense, and it did allow to both sides to take the high road with the objectives of science and learning and exploration. Eventually, it provided a mechanism for engendering cooperation between former adversaries. In that sense, among others, it was an exceptional national investment for both sides. So I close remembering Goddard governance and geophysics. The American Robert Goddard invented the liquid propellant rocket. Germany used his technology to develop a large strategic weapon. A governance competition between superpowers resulted in the military development of very high-performance rockets. A scientific program in geophysics led to the use of those big rockets to launch the first satellites around the Earth. Those satellites initiated the space race, and the space race culminated in the events we celebrate this evening. Would humans have explored the moon without the work of Robert Goddard, the existence of the Cold War, or the IGY? Perhaps, but certainly never on the schedule as it actually occurred. History is a sequence of random events and unpredictable choices, which is why the future is so difficult to foresee. But you can try. Thank you all for helping us celebrate this spaceflight anniversary. Good evening.
This concludes this evening's program, and I'm sure that you all share my gratitude to Dr. Aldrin, General Collins, Colonel Armstrong, and Dr. Kraft for what is truly a memorable evening. How about a round of applause, folks?
You can watch this event